Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap, hold, kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Only Football Tonight. Kyle and I are continuing our division predictions for the 2026 NFL season. And tonight we are going to be doing the AFC North, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens. Who's going to win that division and come out with the 2026 AFC North division crown? Tune in to find out. Oh, let's get it.
Up, rolling right, throwing back at the end zone. Cortland Sutton, touchdown, Denver.
Rolling right, throws deep. God, touchdown! Come on! Oh my God, touchdown! Come on! Under pressure, Caleb throws in the end zone and Kamek catches it. Oh my God! Oh my God! Touchdown!
Oh my God!
Oh my freaking God!
They kicked a game-losing field goal. I've never seen this before. They kicked a field goal as time expired, so they would lose by 7 instead of 10.
And the offense is out there right now. Are we going for it, Ben? Snap, hold, kick.
Denver's going to the AFC Championship!
Denver.
Let's go!
It's just hilarious because, like, there is no penalty. The game's over, you know? That's all he knows to do.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Only Football. Today, we bring you our much anticipated AFC North predictions, a division that looks completely different for the first time in our lifetime. I'm kidding. I mean,
Stop
I'm
hyping it.
kidding, but
Stop
I'm kind of
hyping it.
not. I mean, what do we got? 2005, Mike Tomlin took over.
Yeah.
And John Harbaugh took over in like 2008, maybe something like that.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I would say so.
Got Joe Flacco shortly after, won a Super Bowl in 2012, and then followed with a bunch of Sean Payton-esque seasons, besides the part where he got screwed over in the postseason. John Harbaugh doesn't really have a reason, in my opinion, to not have more rings. And finally, the Ravens said, we think you're hurting us more than you're helping us, which is a crazy thing to say to a coach that has the track record of John Harbaugh or the track record of Mike Tomlin, who, by the way, finished his entire tenure with the Steelers without a losing season.
Yeah.
The problem is his highs were not high enough. And the lows were not low enough for this to happen earlier. So finally, all parties just decide, all right, let's just try something different. And I think Seattle had a lot to do with it. You know, you saw Mike McDonald go and get the head coaching job in Seattle. Pete Carroll was in Seattle for a long time. We didn't know how that was going to go, but I interviewed a Ravens fan on my channel, and he was like, we should not have let Mike out of the building. He was like really beating the drum on how good Mike was. And
Really?
they were like, if the Ravens were smart, they would have made Mike McDonald their head coach and let Harbaugh go.
Yeah.
And, now looking back on it, I mean, damn, he was right. And I always say, like, hey, fans really know their team. They're really in tune. But I think that the Seahawks kind of taking something old, flipping it upside down and winning a Super Bowl in 2 years gave inspiration to teams like the Ravens and the Steelers to say, hey, hell with 10 wins. Let's try to get a Super Bowl. I mean, what are we even doing if we're not trying to get one? So you get new coaches for the Ravens. You get new coaches for the Steelers. The Browns have a new coach. Have we really talked about Todd Munkins at all?
Very, very little.
Like if I asked you who the Browns head coach was before I just said that, don't feel bad because I didn't know.
Yeah,
I had to refresh. I'm like, who the hell's their coach again? I couldn't remember.
I was like, Stefanski's not new.
I couldn't remember. Isn't that crazy? Like, like that's how irrelevant the Browns are. And you got this thing with Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. It looks like Deshaun Watson might become the starter. And I guess if you're going for upside, everybody's saying Shedeur is where you would go if you're going for upside. I don't know if I totally agree with that because we've seen Deshaun Watson play at a very high level. So if he's anything remotely like, hey, maybe this is the year that he just has his Michael Vick, I'm back here, like when he came back with Philly. I don't know. But they get rid of Myles Garrett, which I think signifies this isn't our year. And if that's the case, then why wouldn't you go with Shedeur Sanders? So the whole thing's really interesting. But for the first time in quite some time, I feel like we're going to go through these predictions and things aren't going to be, now I got the Steelers winning 9 or 10 games. I got the Ravens winning 10 or 11. I got the Browns winning 3, and I got the Bengals winning 10 or 11. Like, we're going to have to do some real soul searching for these predictions because this is uncharted territory for you and me. Since we started this podcast, we have never walked into an AFC North that has looked more strange. Before we get started, what do you think the weirdest thing is this year with the AFC North? Like, what is it that you're most excited for going into this year?
Oh, dude, I don't know, because like you named every single one of them. I think the biggest head scratcher for me is the Browns. It's let's bring in Todd Monken and let's. And this is no fault of Deshaun or no fault of the front office because Deshaun Watson's, at least per the preseason and training camp, has been the better quarterback than Shedeur, right? Like the fact that Shedeur was drafted by them, but Dylan Gabriel was also drafted by the Browns last year prior to Shedeur Sanders, and he looks like he's a cut candidate at this point now in training camp. It's just the Browns, like they are. When you say poverty franchise, you think of the Browns, but they have stooped almost a little bit lower than poverty franchise because the moves they make are very confusing. You had Stefanski, who was a 2-time head coach of the year. You brought in Deshaun Watson after all the allegations, and while I see why they looked at it from a talent point of view, you're bringing in basically someone who is terrible in terms of public eye, and you're getting rid of someone who is loved by the NFL community in Baker Mayfield. And that whole move was confusing. Deshaun Watson has played like a handful of games in his 4-year contract, whatever. You bring in Shedeur, but you draft the guy before him, and now he's probably going to get cut. And now you're not even giving it to Shedeur, which part of me understands because you want that last year of that guaranteed money in Deshaun Watson's contract. You just want to see what the guy has, right? And he's already playing better. But that whole team is confusing. The Myles Garrett thing is kind of too. Let's sign this guy not last year, but the year prior to this big deal, which, by the way, we're going to trade him next year because he said he wants to go to a contender, but then he took the money, but now we're going to trade him. I don't know, dude. Like the Browns seem to be the biggest, just like, what the fuck are they doing franchise in the NFL right now? So if there's one thing out of the AFC North, if you're like, what's the biggest WTF? It's the Browns as a whole, but their defense is still really good.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think if there's one like phrase that sums up this whole division this year, I would say like you could say fork in the road, you could say turning point.
Mm-hmm.
I think like with the year Lamar Jackson had last year, if he has a down year and the Ravens missed the playoffs, I think that we're looking at Lamar Jackson vastly different. I mean,
Mm.
just 1 year of him being hurt and missing the postseason, Bo Nix was ranked higher than Lamar Jackson in the top 100 this year.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh my God, this is crazy. But they don't realize like it's based off last year. Like
Mm-hmm.
Bo Nix was better than Lamar last year. Lamar didn't even really play last year. And I had him on my
Yeah.
fantasy team. But if you do this 2 times in a row, just look where CJ Stroud is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Lamar could end up. And I'll say the same for Joe Burrow. I mean, it's like everybody's saying it. It's like, okay, time to put up or shut up. I
Mm-hmm.
happen to believe Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And yeah, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I mean, look at the franchise he's in. Look at the offensive line that they have around him. I mean, look, there's a lot of, when you have a franchise that is missing the playoffs year in and year out, there's a lot of blame to go around. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's kind of the same thing with Justin Herbert, where it's like, we don't really care about the excuses anymore. Either do it or stop being in this elite conversation. Like we don't want to have this conversation and you in it anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of those years where Joe Burrow really is going to remind the NFL who he is. And I really would hate to play the Bengals, in January, if that's what it comes down to, because you hear Joe Burrow right now talking about Super Bowl, talking
Mm-hmm.
about, I don't want to push this till next year. Like, I feel like we get so comfortable being like, this isn't our year, but maybe next year. He's like, screw that. Like, we're all getting older. We're running out of time. The urgency is really there. And he's used the word manifest. He's really trying to tell
Yeah.
this locker room, like, let's do this. Like, this is the best.
Mm-hmm.
He said, this is the best team we've ever had since I've been here. He's saying these type of things. We'll see if it translates. And then for the Steelers, it's like, whoa, you're going with Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy are having a reunion. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is like so wild to me. Let's start with the Steelers, I think, because
Yep.
the Steelers won the division last year.
Yep.
And I don't think, I mean, I predicted it, but I don't think, like, I think you thought it was satire when I did it. And
Yeah.
it wasn't.
I'll agree with that.
It wasn't satire, but I will say, like, I thought the Steelers would be better than they were last year. And they had a horrendous defense. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the highest paid defense in the NFL, and they were like bottom 10. I mean, you just can't have that. Also, what did the offense look like? It looked like every other offense under Mike Tomlin. There was nothing
Mm-hmm.
special about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are forgetting that not only did Aaron Rodgers look his best late in the year last year, but when's the last time Aaron Rodgers played for a head coach that you believed in? Now, I'm not talking about like Mike Tomlin. Of course, you believe
Mm-hmm.
in him, but I'm talking about like a Matt LaFleur, a Mike McCarthy, an offensive guy that's going to scheme stuff up. I mean, he's been playing with Robert Saleh in Mike Tomlin. So in a way, we're kind of going to, at a late point in Aaron Rodgers' career, we're going to be in one of his most favorable situations in maybe 4 years. So that kind of adds a little intrigue. And then you add the fact that they already know each other. They've won a Super Bowl together. This is definitely his kind of last year, but he's doing it with Mike McCarthy. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like I don't know. I don't know what to think of the Steelers. Is really, I mean, in a
Mm-hmm.
way, I think if I had them winning the division last year, I should have them winning this year. The problem is this is one of those divisions where I don't feel very comfortable going with a back-to-back winner. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the NFC East. It's like whoever you picked last year, maybe you shouldn't pick him again. It's like you picked CMC last year for fantasy. Maybe don't use him this year because maybe something will happen. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah. Yep.
I'm kind of feeling this way about the Steelers, but at the same time, I'm not totally out. I like the moves that they're making. I like their weapons that they have around the ball. I still want to see Roman Wilson take that next step. DK Metcalf is I mean, they brought in who else did they bring in to be on the other side of
Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman. I
Yeah.
think this is one of those very underrated moves. I mean, you had everybody focusing on DK Metcalf. Now you're going to have to pick. Are we leaving Michael Pittman? Michael Pittman is a very good wide receiver too in this league. So there's a lot of stuff that you like about this offense. It's just a matter of, is it sexy enough for anybody to go out on a limb and say, give me the Steelers?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, over Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, I highly doubt it. But at the same time, I would bet anything that in December the Steelers are playing for playoffs. I mean, that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, and looking at this roster too, like you said, a low-key move that I think is going to have a lot of upside is bringing in Michael Pittman. I mean, they're probably I don't really know the specifics of the contract, but Michael Pittman got paid a couple seasons ago or whatever. So it's probably the Colts who are paying a majority of his contract, and the Steelers are kind of getting him at a bargain, right? So yeah, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman at the X and Y, like those are, like you said, those are good moves for a team whose quarterback is Aaron Rodgers and running back is Jaylen Warren. You know, Jaylen Warren hasn't really shown much, like, you know, at least in terms of like a RB1 legit. And Aaron Rodgers is on the last year of his career, which paired with Mike McCarthy might be great, right? But this is a very nice wide receiver room with Metcalf and Pittman. Like both of these guys can show out. Yes, they've had their like DK has his issues with on the field attitude, and Pittman has gotten hurt after he got paid, but he was really consistent prior to that. And then Roman Wilson, like you said, you hope he takes another step. And you got Pat Freiermuth at the tight end position, which I mean, and Darnell Washington, who's an absolute monster at the tight end position. So you've got a nice tight end and wide receiver room. I think with Mike McCarthy and what he was able to do with the Cowboys, right? Like that offense that he was able to create with Dak Prescott and your CD Lambs, and your who's the tight end at that point? I'm forgetting their name.
Freiermuth?
No. For the Cowboys when McCarthy was with them, I forget his name, but regardless, like he was able to make all this work. And yes, he had a younger quarterback, but you rekindle something like an Aaron Rodgers McCarthy relationship from when they won the Super Bowl, and maybe you're looking at some upside. What I think is going to be something that happens in this season for the Steelers is, personally, I don't think they're going to be fighting for the playoffs in December. But I also said they weren't winning the division last year. So there could be a lot of things that change by that time, right? What I think is Will Howard and Drew Aller, the 3 and 4 string quarterback, I think they're going to get a lot of time in the December, January timeframe in terms of playing time, because if the Steelers are legitimate about, you know, bringing in Mike McCarthy and bettering this team in terms of offense, as well as wins, and as well as, I don't know, maybe either knowing that you have a quarterback on your squad or being bad enough to get one next season, they're going to give both of these guys time. And I think one of these guys is going to emerge as your quarterback one to succeed Aaron Rodgers with Mike McCarthy in the future for however long he's with the team. I forget how long the contract was. But I really do think in December or even like late November, you're going to see a Drew Aller come in like the fourth quarter in a blowout game type of thing. I think you're going to see Will Howard come in the same situation later on in the season, I should say, because you have Mike McCarthy, who has shown with Dallas that he's still good at creating offense. Like you said, when's the last time Aaron Rodgers had a coach or even an offensive coordinator that was worth a damn? And that was LaFleur. And that was with Nathaniel Hackett. You know what I mean? Like that pairing. That pairing was magic. And it happened like less than a decade ago. You know, like this happened less than a decade ago. We're talking about, right? So yeah, you got to give them some upside here. But to your point, I don't see the Steelers competing because of Joe Burrow and because of Lamar Jackson. I really don't. And the defense, I mean, other than TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward is basically an old man. Patrick Queen has done really well.
Peyton Wilson's a beast. I wanted to draft him so bad. Like, he was somebody that fell to the second round somehow, and
Yeah,
I think
I
he got
remember.
picked with like the first pick in the second round. But Peyton Wilson, I think he's going to become, one of the top 10 linebackers in the league this year. So
Yeah.
I like what they have at linebacker.
Yeah, and you could go up and down with the names. Jalen Ramsey, who's basically on the end of his career. Jaquan Brisker, who, the Bears had him for basically his from draft day until just last season, and other than concussions, not a bad safety to have, but he's going to get beat quite a bit because he's really not that fast. And then you go up and down and you're like, yeah, these guys are some good names. Again, headlined by TJ Watt, but I just don't think that they are going to be. I think this is probably a third place team, and that's only because the Browns are also in their division. And they could make some noise early, which they did last season. If you guys remember that game against the Jets, where we were like, oh my God, DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers, like this. And Jalen Ramsey made the game-saving tackle basically against the Jets in the opening their opening game last season. And we were just like, wow, the Steelers look really, really good. And maybe Mike Tomlin doesn't have to retire, and then it just all went to hell afterwards in terms of as a team. So yeah, I don't think with Joe Burrow and with Lamar Jackson in the division, they're gonna have that much of a chance. But I think Mike McCarthy being the head coach, definitely better than Tomlin at this point. You brought again Metcalf and Pittman, really good wide receivers. Your tight ends are solid. Jaylen Warren has to do a little bit more, prove it to really solidify that running back one position.
All right, the Baltimore Ravens were one of the more disappointing teams in the league last season, but now a whole new coaching staff. They've made big additions that should help improve the roster. Derrick Henry's only 30. I don't know if you guys thought he was like 34.
I think he's gonna be 31 at the start of the season, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I think his birthday is oh God, I think it's in August. I think.
Oh no, he's 32.
Is he 32?
Yeah.
Oh,
January.
Shit, that's
January.
right. He's my age.
Yeah.
That's why, because it's funny. Once you turn 30, you feel like you're 30 every year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
still cool, dude. I'm still 25.
Like, I'm 32. What the fuck? No, but I remember thinking, like, I'm 32, but like, I don't like, I think when you're younger, you think 32 is like old.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, really, you're still in your prime. Unless you're just not taking care of your body. You're not working out. But if you I'm like on the basketball court and I'm like taking it to the hole. I'm like, man, I didn't have this type of strength when I was younger. Like, what is this? This is like dad strength. Where did this come from? So I think I just think as you get older, like you don't really start turning until like, I don't know, maybe we're talking about the greats, 35, 34. I mean, Adrian Peterson was playing at an elite level till he was, I think he was 34, still having 1,000-yard seasons. So
wow,
I'm not ready to say Derrick Henry's like not going to. Yeah, I'm ready to mark him down for 1,000 yards right now. I mean, what else have we seen besides that? And I think this is going to be the feature running back. They're going to run the football a lot. The offense is going to continue to be great. They got the rookie receivers, Jacoby Lane and Elijah Sarrett. Hopefully they can step up. I feel like the Ravens have had receiver problems for a very long time, but the difference is they're not addressing it by signing Odell Beckham Jr. and DeAndre Hopkins. No shade at those guys. But I feel like the Ravens for a long time were just like, who's the veteran receiver? Like Keenan Allen would have made sense, right? And, he's a Colt now. Shout out to Jinja and Pat McAfee. But I think like the Ravens getting young receivers kind of shows like we're going to attack a need in a different way than we have in a long time. And I kind of like this. I kind of like the grabbing the rookies instead of the veterans, because it hasn't really worked out up to this point for them. Now, defensively, the Ravens had a great linebacking core and secondary last year. They really struggled to get after the passer. So they went out and signed Trey Hendrickson. And if you've been keeping up with the Trey Hendrickson, there's been a lot of beef with the Bengals, and Joe Burrow's made some comments like, oh, of course he was going to go to the Ravens because he wanted to play us twice a year. And this is like extremely personal for Trey Hendrickson. And why wouldn't it be? You know, he's one of the best players in the league and his own team won't pay him. It's just annoying, probably. You know, imagine being the best at what you do and you're just getting like cheap balled by your owners, and you're like, man, this is all our defense has is me. Like, if you won't pay me, then what are we even doing? It just makes the whole franchise seem like a joke, to be honest. And the Ravens were like, we'll take care of you. And gosh, that's like the worst thing that could have happened to the Bengals, because now they have to play this guy twice a year. And instead of going after Lamar, he's going to be going after Joe Burrow. So I think that this is a great addition defensively. You know, he's finished with 17 and a half sacks in his last 2 fully healthy seasons. I mean, we're talking like almost leading the NFL numbers right there. They also added Zion Young, a rookie pass rusher out of Missouri. So the Ravens addressed their problems. And this is what I like. It's like, at least on paper, this is like the opposite of how I felt about the Chiefs, where it's like, oh, you have these needs. What did you do? Nothing. You know, what did you do at receiver? Nothing. It's like the Ravens at least have a plan, and I think they should easily eclipse the 10-win mark this season should Lamar Jackson stay healthy. They open up the season with the Colts, Saints, Cowboys, Titans, Falcons, Browns. I kind of like that. I mean, I feel like we could blink and they would be 5-0, and that wouldn't be crazy. I mean, the hardest game on that stretch is the Colts week 1 in Indy. I might pick the Colts to win that one, but outside of that, though, I mean, you're talking about a 5-game win streak. You got them losing to the Saints, Cowboys, Titans, Falcons, Browns. I don't. So I kind of like their schedule, and we're not used to seeing the Ravens play this type of schedule because usually they finish first. But last year, Lamar was hurt, so they get an easy schedule. This is the opposite of the Steelers. Steelers kind of have their easiest game is probably week 1 against Atlanta. And then it's all like difficult besides the Browns twice a year. But I think the Ravens really get an edge on the schedule in a pretty big way compared to some of the other teams in the division. So I like what they did. The big question mark is the head coach. I don't know what he is. I don't know if he's a good coach. I don't know if the team is buying in. Like, it takes time to build a culture. And I don't know if Lamar Jackson, for all of what he does well, like with Jalen Hurts, I've always felt like he's the culture setter of the team. It's not Nick Sirianni. But with Lamar Jackson, it was like as soon as Harbaugh got fired, like there was cryptic tweets being sent by Lamar, which basically meant like, I'm unleashed. Like I was being held back and now I'm about to go. And to me, I'm just like, dude, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want to hear any excuses. Like, first off, just like, don't do that to your coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, second off, like, you were hurt all last season. So it's just like, I don't know if without John Harbaugh, for all of what he was a culture setter. Like the one thing we know about the Giants is that they're going to have an identity and a culture, and they're going to be a difficult team to play. And now with Harbaugh gone, it's kind of like the grass is greener on the other side. Well, sometimes it isn't. And we're going to have to see, because is this new coach going to be able to create a culture, or are there going to be a lot of individuals kind of on their own system, you know, all on their own little plan, and they're kind of arguing on the field, you know, and is the head coach going to step up and reel it in, or is Lamar Jackson the guy now? I just need to see how this whole thing plays out, because the leadership direction of the team is a question mark for me. And that is maybe the biggest thing on a football team is the leadership, the culture, and your identity. So it's pretty fascinating. If it all goes well, I mean, the Ravens can win the division and go over double digits, but I could also see them winning 7 games this year if this culture is not set, and they don't know what they're doing. Like the Eagles last year, are we a running team? Are we a passing team? Oh, now we're going to abandon the run because our receivers are mad. I just need to see how this whole thing plays out.
Yeah, and their new head coach Jesse Minter, he's coming from LA, so he was the defensive coordinator there, right? So I think when we think of the Chargers in terms of defense, they've been a consistently good defense for the past several years, and it was mostly under his watch, under Minter's watch. And when you're kind of going through the whole culture thing, and that was kind of my first thing too, was like, how is this guy going to come in here and go up to Cameron Hayward, go up to Roquan Smith, go up to who's their other linebacker, Patrick Queen, and be like, I'm the guy that's going to get you guys past the AFC Championship game. I'm the guy that's going to get you past these teams, the Bills, the Chiefs of years past, where you guys couldn't get past them. I'm going to be the guy. How are you going to go? And then I thought, and I was like, wait, this guy has been coaching Khalil Mack, Dante Jackson. What's the other guy's name? Derwin James. Like, he's got some veterans on his side, and who probably will speak highly of him with other players, right? Like NFL players in the offseason, they talk amongst each other, they hang out. We know, like, this is kind of what the league is now in terms of superstars. So they'll be talking, and that was because, again, going back to what you said, that's one of the first questions I asked myself too. And I was like, wait, this guy's been coaching players like what the Ravens have. It's just now the culture that he has to set is basically Super Bowl. That's the only culture that, because if he wins a Super Bowl, Jesse Minter within his first contract, I mean, they've already gone far enough, right? Like farther than what Harbaugh has done recently. Not at the beginning with Joe Flacco, but recently.
If he wins a playoff game, would you say it's a success?
I think winning a playoff game is great. Is a success regardless. I think anytime you're in the playoffs, it is success. It's just, what are you doing in the playoffs on a consistent basis, right? If you're in the playoffs on a consistent basis and you're always losing the first game, okay, maybe it's definitely time for a change, Steelers. But with the Ravens, like, they've won games. They've been to the AFC Championship game. It has just been what you referred to. Oh, we're just going to abandon the run now. Oh, well, we can't pass to our receivers because our receivers can't catch all of a sudden, right? Like, that's like, if Jesse Minter wins a playoff game, if he gets to the playoffs, he wins a division crown and wins a playoff game, I think they're going to be all in on him, like zero doubt. It's just, how can he continue to prove to these guys, in team meetings, in the offseason, during the season, that, hey, we actually have a team in this room right now that can win the Super Bowl. And that's his biggest hurdle. And all this stuff with Lamar Jackson, them wanting to get an extension done, he's got 2 years left on his contract, but him being like, no, we're not going to talk about that right now. I don't know where this is going to go, because if Jesse Minter comes into this and that's kind of what's happening with Lamar Jackson, and he's already kind of being a little bit difficult in terms of a extension, how is that relationship going to be throughout the season, right? We know Lamar can separate coaching players from, his mom being the agent, as well as the front office and the money side. We know he can do it. He's done it. He did it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. And he's still winning MVPs. It's just, with a new head coach, I feel like with a new regime coming in, a new leadership, it does become, I feel like, a little different, because now it's like, well, Harbaugh was a proven guy. You're a new head coach. I don't necessarily need to play for you, right? Maybe. And I'm just speculating here. I just think that with that kind of the cloud under the Ravens organization right now, it just sucks. And especially for a new coaching staff to come in and have to deal with that. Now, the team itself, I mean, they just have to continue defensively wise from how they ended the season last year. They started off the season on the defensive side rough. It wasn't until they played the Bears where that defense looked really, really good and up to par to what everybody was expecting prior to last season. And you've still got a lot of the same guys here. Marlon Humphrey, Calais Campbell, Roquan Smith, Trey Hendrickson is a new addition. Nate Wiggins is still on the squad. Defensively, they just have to continue to go or continue the pace from the latter half of last season. If they continue that, I mean, this is a scary defense on top of already adding Trey Hendrickson. With the offense, we talked about the receivers, and the one that always sticks out to me is Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers somehow, to me, never seems like 1,000-yard receiver. And yet, since he entered the league, he is nothing but gone up in terms of yardage. He's gone from like 800 to 1,000 to 1,200 and some plus yards last season. But the most touchdowns he's had in a season is 5. And if that's your number one wide receiver, don't get me wrong, 5 touchdowns is 5 touchdowns. But as a number one, I mean, you're hoping to get up to 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that. So that's why, to me, Zay Flowers has never really been like that wide receiver one. And I think a lot of people, maybe you agree, but I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. And so with Rashad Bateman, and then you got Mark Andrews to kind of basically seal all the pass catchers there. I think it's a good group. I just don't think it's anything spectacular. And really, it's Lamar Jackson who is made that offense like so electric, right? It's been with his feet. And we saw last year how you mentioned he's had injuries. And when you have guys like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman who are like, yeah, those guys are really solid, but not Jamar Chase, not Jay Jettas, not those type of guys, it kind of keeps your offense almost plateaued, kind of stale. So it really is like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman either got to step it up, or like you mentioned, the rookies really got to step it up too. And again, Lamar Jackson's going to be Lamar Jackson. Take away injuries, and he has a viable case for MVP almost every damn season. But in this league, I mean, you're going to get injured, and it's just how do you get back from that? I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be Tyler Huntley who's going to get you into the playoffs, the first year head coach with Minter, right? If Lamar gets hurt. But with Derrick Henry there and with this receiving core that's pretty good, you really have to count on your defense. And I think with what Minter's done in LA with the Chargers, I think this defense is going to start off really, really good and be consistent throughout the whole season. I can see them as a division winner. I can see them up there, but there's a couple other teams we got to talk about that still in contention.
Yeah, I knew you were going with the Browns. The final thing with Lamar is like last year, I don't know if you remember, but even when he was not hurt, he didn't look like himself. Like he looked slower. And I remember live streaming games with you and being like, what is that? Like Lamar would never take a sack right there. Like that juice that he had to like, just like, oh, you're about to get me, zoom. Now I'm like somehow out of the pocket.
That was him the year before last year, where we were like, this guy's just got quicker somehow.
Yeah.
But last year, like you said, it looked weird.
Last year it looked weird. And I don't know if he was like injured all year and we didn't really know. And then it was like, got so bad that he had to go out. But people talk about the style of play with Lamar, the most rushing yards for a quarterback, all this stuff. Well, how long can a quarterback in a way, like we're in uncharted territory in this age of the league where we have quarterbacks that are like Lamar Jackson. Michael Vick was, able to run, but he took 4 years off.
Yeah.
So this is interesting with like Lamar is like, I really feel like this is like, if he goes out there and he doesn't look like Lamar, like you said, MVP, like that's what we expect out of Lamar. Like if he's taking sacks and he's like not putting up points and he's not really running and he's getting like caught from behind and stuff, you start to wonder, like, does Lamar have to change the way he plays the game to be great at the next stage of his career?
Yeah.
And if that is the case, like, will he be able to make that pivot mid-season? this is all fascinating to me. But let's go and talk about the Browns. They were 5-12 last year. They're plus 2,000 to win the division. They had a good draft, but I mean, no one's going to feel good about the team. Let's just be real. I don't know if anybody really believes in Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson, you know, obviously kind of lurking around the corner, and he's getting a lot of the potential. That's a weird thing for Deshaun, right? Lurking around the corner.
Hey, as long as you're not a masseuse, you're fine.
Yeah. As long as his pants are on while he's lurking, right? But I mean, Shedeur Sanders, like, I have been a big fan. Obviously, he went to Colorado. I saw him have some amazing comebacks against Colorado State. I didn't understand why he fell so far, but then again, I kind of did, because I understand, like, sometimes when you're running an organization, like Sean Payton's very particular about the people he brings in. And it's not like a shot at Shedeur. It's just, if your brand is bigger than our brand, we don't want you. And that's, each team can make that decision for themselves. This is another reason that Tebow could have been a backup, but teams were like, I don't want to deal with the clown show for a backup quarterback. It's not worth it. So if you got Shedeur Sanders not playing at a high level, and I think for the Browns, it's perfect, because you're going to put ass in the seats. You're going to sell tickets. You're going to sell merch. What more could you ask for a team that has nothing to look forward to sell out stadiums and sell jerseys? I mean, this is kind of like a godsend. And if you're running this organization, how could you not play Shedeur Sanders? With that said, I'm watching him in camp. I'm watching him in the preseason. He doesn't look good. I mean, he doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. He's kind of bailing out of clean pockets. He's throwing to his first read when if he made it to his third progression, he would have had a better option. He just doesn't look comfortable. He's throwing interceptions, and I'm not seeing the step. Now, we saw like these glimpses of Shedeur last year where he was like, had 350 yards and 2 picks and 4 touchdowns or something crazy like that. And you're just wondering, like, oh, what could he do with the full offseason? Well, to me, so far, it doesn't look different. It doesn't look that much different from last year. So I feel like you throw him out there because maybe you have nothing to lose. But if Deshaun Watson's playing good in camp, I mean, dude, you got to remember that you paid $260 million guaranteed. If I'm the owner and I got Shedeur and Deshaun, I'm playing Deshaun Watson because of the money I gave him. Because if there's even a last chance, Hail Mary, that Deshaun Watson can put together a decent season, I want him to do it for me. I paid him to do it. Now, if he goes out there and he stinks, I'm benching him by week 2. I mean, I'm telling you, the leash is so short on Deshaun. But that's how I would do it, because it's like, if Deshaun goes out there and he sucks, well, then you're going to move to Shedeur and he's going to have all season anyway. And if you don't go with Deshaun, then you never really know what could have been. So I think the only right way to do it is to let Deshaun Watson be your week 1 starter and put him on a much shorter leash than anyone else in the league is on. Because if you're losing your first 2 games and Deshaun looks even mediocre, then I'm moving. Because it's like, you either got to look good to great, or I'm moving off of you, because I just don't need to waste my time. Whatever. Like, we know what you are. Your best year was behind you. I mean, think about it. His last good year was 2020. It was COVID. We were wearing masks and social distancing last time Deshaun Watson was good at football.
Facts.
So I think, like, this Browns team, they won 5 games last year, but maybe they could have won 1 or 2 if it weren't for Myles Garrett. This team has always been carried by Myles Garrett. And while I think Jared Verse is one of the best defensive players in the league, there's just no replacement for Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a one-of-a-kind player. I think he had like 17 of his 20 sacks on a 3-man rush, which is insane.
That's insane.
So
it's insane.
Denzel Ward, those are some good players. I mean, their defense, I feel like their defense has been kind of good the last 4 years, really.
Yeah.
It's just been the offense. I think with the Browns all in all, though, I think this is one of those years, honestly, that the Browns might win like 1 or 2 football games.
Yeah, it's a tough go in with the Browns, and I gotta leave here in a few minutes. So I'm gonna touch briefly on the Browns, the Bengals, and then I'll give you guys my predictions. But with the Browns, I totally agree with what you say with the quarterback situation. They're gonna start Deshaun, and next up is gonna be Shador. The thing that I think is gonna happen is like how you said, like Deshaun, if he doesn't look good in week 1, in week 2, Shador immediately. And the only time Shador is ever going to come out is if he gets injured at that point. Because once you make that decision as Todd Monken, you can't flip flop back and forth. What does that do to the team? You aren't a very good decision maker, Todd Monken, right? Like that kind of sets the tone for that kind of stuff. Now with the defense, like you said, Myles Garrett, one of a kind, couldn't agree more there. Jared Verse is like a solid option B. You know what I mean? Like that 1-for-1 swap, and then all the other things according to the trade. At the end of the day, I mean, you had to unload Myles Garrett contract because you're about to unload Deshaun Watson's. You're about to have a lot of money on the books next season for hopefully a new quarterback coming in. If nobody impresses you, maybe bring in some more guys on the defense, free agent wise. We'll see what happens. But you're the Browns. You did a really good move by getting rid of Myles Garrett and obviously about to get rid of Deshaun Watson. It's just this season, kind of to your point, I can see them win 3 to 4 games, but it's going to look disgusting. It's going to look really bad. The only thing as a Browns fan that I'm going to hold on to is Harold Fannin Jr., Quinshawn Judkins, and to a smaller extent, Jerry Jeudy. And of course, Schweizinger, Jared Verse, those guys on the defense, like those guys you're just gonna like. Now, real quick with the Bengals, you talked about them earlier. You talked about how with the offensive line with Joe Burrow, like he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in the world, when he's healthy. That's the biggest thing, is when he's healthy. He just needs to stay healthy. And one thing that I really love that Jamar Chase said, because the Bears and the Bengals are having a joint practice right now, is look, because Joe had gotten to a scuffle with one of the Bears defensive guys. And they asked Jamar Chase about it. And he's like, I don't care about, things like this. If Joe gets into it, I just want to protect Joe Burrow. We have to fucking protect Joe Burrow, is what he said. And that's like every Bengals fan is saying, thank you, Jamar. That's exactly what we need. Protect Joe Burrow. He's a tough motherfucker, Joe Burrow. If he needs to get out of the pocket and run somebody over like Jay Cutler style, like he's going to do it for that first down. Like he is that type of quarterback. The thing is, when he does that, it's like every Bengals fan and even his own teammates are like, ooh, like, is he okay? That's the thing with Joe Burrow, is like, we need him healthy because we've been to the Super Bowl with him as a fully healthy starter. And we've had one of the best offenses in the league when he's a fully healthy starter. Did they go to the playoffs that year? No, because the defense was just crap. And so the defense so far, at least through training camp, has looked decent. Now, they did get rid of Trey Hendrickson, but they bring in Dexter Lawrence. They've got some guys, Boye Mafe. They brought in, I believe he was a Seahawk last year, so he's bringing his championship caliber, experience into this room. It's just, when I watched the Bears game last season with the Bengals, nobody could tackle. Everybody was like, I'm going to try to hit you as hard as you can to knock you down, but I'm not going to wrap up. And those are the types of fundamentals that are going to either get Zach Taylor an extension or get him fired. Because while he's an offensive guy, it's his team at the end of the day. And if his team can't wrap up and tackle, what are we doing during training camp? What are we doing in the offseason? What are we doing weeks between games? That's going to be the biggest question. I mean, he's on the hot seat. How do you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow? Yes, you have a Super Bowl appearance, but nothing since then. Yes, we can always revert back to Joe Burrow not being healthy, but what have you done for the team to make sure he is healthy? Right. So it's a tough place for Zach Taylor to be in, but a lot of this like fundamental stuff is really going to be on him at the end of the day. He's the AFC North may have a bunch of first year, second year head coaches next year if Zach Taylor's gone, if they don't win the division. But this team on the offensive side, zero issues. Again, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, zero issues there. I mean, wide receiver wise, Chase Brown, we saw some glimpses last season, but he didn't really have that jump that a lot of us were really expecting after they got rid of Mixon. So you're kind of hoping Chase Brown not only becomes a real threat out of the backfield like he has been, but a real running back number one. That's kind of what you're hoping for as a Bengals fan, because we know he can catch the ball and make moves with his legs or whatever, but can he actually be a reliable 3-down back? That's yet to be seen, and that's what he needs to do this season. The defense, again, I talked about it, Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, these guys can make a huge difference and can bring some of their experience in terms of like, I've been on elite defenses. This is what elite defenses do, kind of knowledge into the whole defensive side of the locker room. So, with all that being said about all the teams, I'm going to give you guys my predictions here, and then I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to let Kyle take it away. But Kyle, in fourth place in the AFC North in 2026, I've got the Cleveland Browns. That one's very easy.
Same.
Third in the division, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think I'm going with a losing season. I think they're going 7-9. 8-9. I think they just miss it. I think they just miss it. The offense is going to look better, but it's not going to look that much better. And Aaron Rodgers,
you picked the Steelers to win the division our first year.
I know. And look how much of a silly goose I've looked since then. At the top two places is where I am really, really struggling, but I've made a decision, and that is second place in the AFC North is the Ravens, and number one is the Bengals. The Bengals are your 2026 AFC North division winners. Wow. Joe Burrow stays healthy. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are finally like, yes, we can win the division again and move forward in the playoffs with a healthy Joe Burrow. I think it goes Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns.
Yeah, I got the Bengals on top as well.
Yeah. I think this might be it, dude. I think this might be the year.
Yeah, and I'm never going to make my predictions like predicting injury. So that's assuming that like Joe Burrow stays healthy all season.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Bengals are going to be competing for Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, they've got pieces, man. It's just all dependent on the defense, because we know the offense is more than well equipped to be one of the top in the NFL. So I got the Bengals winning the 2026 AFC North. Guys, thanks so much. Jinja in the chat, thanks so much for being here, Jinja. And Kyle, I'll see you later, brother.
See you, brother.
So
yeah, so the Bengals, they're one of my teams this year. And I like the massive changes that they made. I mean, we already know Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown. Those are all really good players. They just haven't all been on the field at the same time. It hasn't really happened. They seem to never be fully healthy at the same time. But like I said, I'm not betting on injuries when making predictions. So I'm making my prediction as if all four players are going to be healthy. And if that's the case, I think this defense is good enough to be mediocre. And you look at the year that what's his name? Joe Burrow had 2 years ago where he threw over 5,000 yards and they missed the playoffs. Well, their defense was like 31st in that they were losing games like 41-42. I mean, they were losing games like that. So I said it then, and I'll say it again. Like, if the defense can just be mediocre, if they can just give up 20 points per game, I think the Bengals will win most of their games. I mean, even if you said lock the opponent, the Bengals opponent, lock him in for 24 points every week, I still think the Bengals win most of their games, because I think they can score more than that. The question is, are they going to be giving up 40, 35 on a weekly basis? That's the kind of stuff that you can't have if you're the Bengals. But yeah, I mean, look, the other thing is the Bengals are the only team with continuity at the head coach position. And I think sometimes we don't really appreciate continuity. But I think in this case, like, the Bengals are going to maybe remind people how important it is, even if you have a head coach that isn't like top 10, but just having a top 15 coach that knows the players, has relationships, knows how to critique without offending, like all these little micro things that add up on a daily basis. Having a guy that you know and trust in the building, it goes a really long way, while these other teams in the division are going to be forming relationships, getting ready on the way, if you will. None of it is, just like a finished product. I guess the closest thing would be McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, just because they have a history together. But that's just Aaron Rodgers and McCarthy. There's still, 51 other guys on that team that need to get comfortable and settled in with McCarthy's system. I wanted to bring this up, and I hate doing this because I don't like the Chargers, but you're hearing a lot of people say like Justin Herbert is super overrated because he hasn't done anything yet. And I wanted to remind everybody that when you're living in the moment, it feels like, look, if Justin Herbert goes on to win 2 Super Bowls and goes to the playoffs every single year from now in the next 10 years, no one's going to even remember like, oh, do you remember when everybody was saying like Justin Herbert might be overrated because he hasn't really gotten it done? And I'll prove it to you, because right now, I think Matthew Stafford, coming off an MVP, if he wins a Super Bowl this year, I think he goes in the book of some of the greatest of all time. Like, I think when you're talking Dan Marino, John Elway, like that's going to be Matthew Stafford's going to insert himself in that conversation. And I remember Aaron Rodgers coming off his MVP season when Stafford was still with the Lions, and he hadn't really had any playoff success. And Aaron Rodgers was asked in an interview, who do you think the best quarterback is in the NFL outside of yourself? And he said Matthew Stafford. And at the time, I remember people going, what? Matthew Stafford? I mean, he's a good quarterback, but that's who your best quarterback in the league is? And now I think people really understand how special Matthew Stafford is and how good he could have been maybe if he wasn't with the Lions for the first, 13 years of his career. I think he was drafted in 2008. So, who knows? I think it was about 2020, so 12 years with the Lions, something like that. But let me remind you that we didn't always look at Stafford this way. There was a time where Stafford was a good quarterback, but he wasn't what he is considered to be now. And Justin Herbert, with all of the upside that he has, I think people, at least online, you're seeing a lot of this like Justin Herbert, he hasn't gotten it done. There's no reason we should be high on him. But I think sometimes when you have a player that is showing elite talent on a weekly basis, even if that guy's not getting it done in the playoffs, I feel the same way about Trevor Lawrence for a long time. I kept saying like, and Rick and I got in big debates about this because the Jags paid Trevor Lawrence. And I remember Rick being like, he's not that good. And I'm like, you're crazy, dude. I believe Trevor Lawrence was and is a really good quarterback in this league. And I think the same thing about Justin Herbert. And I think we sometimes forget how hard it is to not only win playoff games, but to win Super Bowls, and how many things have to line up. And look, at the end of the day, it's like no one really cares about the excuses. But let me just give you a comparison, because this is the point of Justin Herbert's career where we can take a step back and look at the first 95 games of Justin Herbert and Matthew Stafford side by side. Herbert total touchdowns through his first 95 games, 178. Stafford, 179. Herbert and Stafford have almost the exact same amount of touchdown passes through their first 95 games. The only difference is Herbert has 47 less turnovers. Playoff record, they're both 0-3 through their first 95 games. Nobody's holding that over Stafford's head now. So I say this to say, however you feel about Herbert, just know how fast the narrative can flip and how different we can be looking at this very shortly. Appreciate that, Ginger. Another thing I wanted to show you, because I saw this and I thought, wow, I mean, I feel like this is one of those stats that is not like, oh, you looked really hard for this, didn't you? This is a very important stat, because remember when Sean Payton was looking for his quarterback, he said one of the most important things he looks at is a quarterback that avoids fumbles, avoids interceptions, but the big thing was avoiding sacks, because he said taking a sack is a loss of a down and it's a penalty and it's almost a guaranteed punt. If you get sacked on 2nd and 10 and now it's 3rd and 20, like forget about it. 3rd and 22, you're going to run a screenplay most likely and just punt. There's not many guaranteed first downs at 3rd and 15 and longer. So I think one of the worst things that can happen to an offense outside of like a pick six and these, I think one of the things in the game that dresses up as a no big deal event that is actually a big deal is a sack. And that's why the year that Russell Wilson was with us and he took over 50 sacks, we were the worst offense in the NFL. Why? Well, when you lead the NFL in sacks, you also are the least amount of first downs. I mean, it pretty much goes hand in hand. And I feel like sometimes people don't just really appreciate how devastating a sack is. Maybe it's because it just seems like a one-off play, but it really rolls over to the next play, and it really rolls over into an entire series. And when you consider that through a first half of football, you may only get 3 series, that's 33% of your possessions in the first half that can get completely wiped away because your quarterback took a dumb sack. Taking a sack is one of the worst things a quarterback can do. So there was an AFC leader quarterback poll, and it shows quarterbacks since 2024. You take passing yards minus sack yards. So obviously, if you're subtracting sack yards, the less sacks you take, the less yards we're subtracting from your passing yards, and then we're adding rushing yards. So if you're a running quarterback, then basically we're looking at total yards minus sack yards. Passing yards minus sack yards plus rushing yards. This is, to me, one of the ways to get not just like what are the great quarterbacks in the AFC right now, but which quarterbacks are the most efficient? Which quarterbacks are having the most positive plays, whether with their feet or with their arm, simultaneously avoiding the negative plays at the same time? Who's doing all 3 in unison the best? Okay. Now, this might surprise you guys to know, but I'm going to show you. This right now, since 2024, is your top 5. Number 1, Bo Nix, 8,175 yards. Number 2, Josh Allen. Number 3, Justin Herbert. Number 4, Patrick Mahomes. And number 5, Lamar Jackson. And sure, maybe Patrick Mahomes would be number 1 on this list had he not gotten hurt last year. But my point is kind of this. I feel like as as a Broncos fan, we have kind of been feeling like Bo Nix, he doesn't really belong in this tier 3. Like, he found himself all offseason in this tier 3 where it's like, I mean, Colin Cowherd has Denver missing the postseason this year, and it's like their defense is more, spectacular, but it's just Bo Nix. Like, we just don't feel good about Bo Nix. And it's funny because, like, what other quarterbacks on this list would you say that about? You wouldn't say that about any of these quarterbacks. But yet, Bo Nix is not even remotely considered a part of this tier. Now, what could Denver do to change that? I don't know. I really don't, because for a long time, I thought that, like Ginger said here, I thought, yeah, he's being disrespected, but if Bo Nix can go head-to-head with Josh Allen in a playoff game, with all the weight on Josh Allen, I mean, how important was that game for Josh Allen? His legacy. This is his easiest pass to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, how disrespectful. But let's just set that aside. Josh Allen coming into Mile High, the Broncos with no running back because J.K. Dobbins got hurt. R.J. Harvey was averaging like 3 yards per carry. They essentially had no running game, and they were going against the NFL's number 1 passing defense in the league. And Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant were out. And Cortland Sutton didn't catch a ball till the fourth quarter. And Bo Nix still went out there and went blow for blow with Josh Allen, including a go-ahead touchdown with less than 50 seconds left in the game. Threw a ball that literally Jesus himself could not have placed more perfectly in the breadbasket of Marvin Mims at the end. I mean, you talk about the clutch gene with the entire season on the line. He threw that ball and the camera went right to Josh Allen. It was like, all right, here we go. So in my head, I thought, look, going into that game, if Bo Nix does what he actually did, I thought that'll be the end of the disrespect because it'll be undeniable. Because sure, you'll be able to say, well, what about these games against the Raiders or Commanders where Bo Nix plays down to the competition or the offense doesn't look good? But as long as you can say, A, hey, he won those games, ugly or not, but B, well, let's look at the other games, like the Packers game, the Bills game, the Chiefs. Every time Bo Nix has played them since being drafted, he's outplayed Mahomes in every one. The question is, like, is Bo Nix a guy that rises to the occasion? Absolutely. And if he can go toe-to-toe with the best in the league, then he'll be undeniable. But that's not what happened. I don't know if it's because he broke his ankle and didn't play in the AFC Championship, but it feels like by the time Sunday kicked off for the AFC Championship, nobody remembered what happened last year. And now everybody is predicting us to miss the playoffs. And I think this is one of those years where I would ask, like, what does Bo Nix need to do in order to be considered one of the top quarterbacks in the league? Well, I don't really think that there's anything he can do. I really mean it. I mean, I think if he goes to the Super Bowl and wins it, it'll be like, well, they had a great defense. He's got Sean Payton. For whatever reason, we have these quarterbacks, and I think when you're drafted 6th, maybe there's a lot of people that were holding on to their draft, like Nick Wright, hoping that they were right about Bo Nix, and they don't want to admit they're wrong about him. But I just thought that this chart right here speaks for itself. And I think the same thing too about Daniel Jones. I think the same thing about Sam Darnold, why is it that there's like a group of quarterbacks? Like Daniel Jones is a perfect example of what I'm trying to say. Daniel Jones was the best quarterback through 8 weeks last year. I mean, you talk about efficiency, you talk about completion percentage, you talk about how he was operating that offense. Does anybody even have the Colts winning their division? Why not? Are we forgetting that before Daniel Jones got hurt, the Colts were, I believe, in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed? I mean, what is it where a player goes to the New York Giants, goes to the Minnesota Vikings, doesn't have success, and then when he does have success, we say, yeah, but I can't just ignore all of those bad years because of one good year. Here's my question. Why not? I could understand if he had a bunch of good years and it's like Lamar Jackson who had a bad year last year and it's like, well, I'm going to hold off on putting Lamar Jackson in top 5 because I need to see if he's having another bad year. But if it's the other way around, it's like, look, the guy balled out last year. That tells you that he got better. We don't leave any room for our opinions to change. And that's in life in general. I mean, you see in politics, people will back their favorite person no matter how it is because they're so tribal over their person. It doesn't matter what they do. People do not like changing their opinion. So if your opinion was that Daniel Jones was a bad quarterback, it didn't matter that he was balling out last year. As soon as he got hurt and you had 6 months to forget about it, we're going into a new season and it's like, yeah, Daniel Jones, he had a decent year last year, but I mean, that's probably a flash in the pan. There's really no reason for us not to be holding Daniel Jones way higher on our rankings. Sam Darnold, same thing. He goes to the Jets. He goes to Carolina. He's kind of this outcast. Nobody wants him. Then he goes to the Vikings after going to the Rams, right? Or the 49ers. And then he goes to the Vikings and wins 14 or 15 football games. The Vikings make a boneheaded decision. Like I said, why would you ever let somebody out of the building that wins that many football games? It's like that the line, you can either hit a curveball or you can't. You can get lucky on a play, but you can't have a lucky career, and you damn well can't have a lucky season. You can't. It's just not a thing. When you see a quarterback dicing up the defense every single week, there's nothing about that should tell you, well, maybe he won't be able to repeat that. If he can't repeat it, it's on the coaching staff because now you know that he's capable. And it's not like this guy's not in his prime. But alas, the Vikings let the guy walk. He goes to Seattle. He wins a Super Bowl, and he's not even considered a top 5 quarterback. Sam Darnold has more wins than any quarterback in the NFL in the last 2 seasons, and he can't even catch a top 10. He's the best at winning in the last 2 years, and nobody has him in their top 10. But we will have Joe Burrow number 2 and number 3 overall. Why? Because of what he did in 2020? Because of what he did 2 years ago? So we'll hang on to 2 years that happened 6 years ago? We'll hang on to a quarterback that had 2 really good years. One of them only went to a Super Bowl. I'm talking about a guy that just won the Super Bowl. We'll hang on to a quarterback. If you come right out of college and you go to a Super Bowl, we'll take 5 mediocre seasons and we'll still put you number 2. But if you inverse it and you come out of college and you're not great right away, and then you go on to win 15 games, then you go on to win another 15 and win the Super Bowl, we're still going to hold you responsible for how the beginning of your career went. And I just don't think that these biases make any sense. Whether you're talking about Bo Nix, who right here you can see passing yards minus sack yards plus rushing yards. This is what efficiency is all about. This is the most efficient quarterbacks in the AFC. None more efficient than Bo Nix. Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold. These 3 quarterbacks criminally underrated. And like I said, Justin Herbert, I got no shade on Herbert. I think he could be Matthew Stafford. We'll all laugh about this, maybe. Or maybe he'll be Phillip Rivers 2.0. I don't know. But what I do know is Justin Herbert gets the benefit of the doubt every single season. Why? I don't really know. Patrick Mahomes hasn't had a good season in like 3 years now. Lamar Jackson is coming off of his worst year ever. And Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. But those 3 quarterbacks will continue to get a pass because the league loves them. Why shouldn't this list have Daniel Jones inside of it? Why not? Trevor Lawrence had a better year than 3 of these quarterbacks probably just last year. But this is including 2024, and we know that was before Liam Cohen got hired as the head coach. But make no mistake about it, if this list was just 2025, Trevor Lawrence would be on this list as well. So I think right now we have to come to grips that there is definitely a shift happening in the league, and you can either get on board with it and make the right bets, or you can deny it and be like that, boomer that's still waiting for, where's that dynasty, right? Lamar Jackson. I know the NFL is weird and it's always evolving, but in today's NFL, 2026, give me Sam Darnold, give me Bo Nix, give me Trevor Lawrence, give me Daniel Jones in the system with the best running back in the NFL. And they just added another receiver to go with Tyler Warren and Keenan Allen, Alec Pierce, Downs Jr., and there's one more that I'm forgetting. In a solid offensive line. I mean, Daniel Jones is looking really good in camp. Everybody's saying it. So, look, the NFL is absolutely changing. That's my opinion at the quarterback position. All right. Last thing I wanted to share with you is some distasteful stuff that I saw from Ben Johnson. This is Ben Johnson talking. You've got 31 other teams coming to training camp saying our goal is to win the Super Bowl. I want more than that. I want to have the highest scoring offense ever, which happens to be the 2013 Denver Broncos. I know how many points per game they scored. What a weird... It's just so weird. Like, you know how serious I am about having the highest scoring offense? I happen to know who it is, and I know how many points it was, 37.9 to be exact. I want to surpass them. I want shutouts. I want blowouts. Oh, Benny. Okay. All right. This is such a ridiculous statement coming from Ben Johnson. All right, everybody wants their offense to be great, but there's no reason to believe that the Bears are going to even be remotely close to scoring 38 points a game this year. It's not going to happen. Now, when he goes out there and he says like something so specific like this, I mean, it makes it seem like he's being serious. And it's like, I do believe in having realistic expectations, right? It's like, okay, I want to have the best offense. I also want to give up the least amount of points of all time. I also want to win the Super Bowl, and I want 10 of our players to be all pros. It's like, look, why do you even care about having the highest scoring offense ever? Honestly. I mean, if your goal is to win a Super Bowl, who cares how you do it? And I get it as an offense guy, he wants to score points, but let's not act like the Bears on a weekly basis we're relying on Caleb Williams to like have miraculous, the onside kick against Green Bay, the throw against the Rams to Cole Kmet. I mean, I could go on and on. It was like every week the Bears, they were called the cardiac Bears because every single week it was like, oh my God, the Bears somehow won the game. And now you're going from that to I want to be the greatest. Do you know how good that offense was? Do you know how good Peyton Manning was at that point in his career? Do you even have a receiver as good as Demaryius Thomas on the roster? I mean, honestly, Eric Decker, look, they have weapons, but DJ Moore's gone. He went to Buffalo. So now you have Luther Burden that's supposed to step up. Roman Dunze didn't have a very good year too. So I just don't understand the point of this statement, because you're basically telling your team, hey, I not only want you to win, but I care how you win. And I just don't think, like, look, Denver didn't go into 2013 ever uttering, oh, we want to be the highest scoring offense. That was, you would never hear Manning say that. And Jinja would know this because he played for the Colts. Manning was not that type of person to be like, I mean, even when he threw his 51st touchdown pass to surpass Tom Brady to Julius Thomas against the Texans, he didn't even want to make a thing about it, right? And Ben Johnson, to me, just, he comes across as like this person that is like the kind of person that, like, even though you have the win, you would like go for it on 4th down, because if you score one more touchdown, the score looks like you blew a team out when you really didn't. Like it's like 29-19 and it looks kind of close-ish. But if you score one more, it could be 36-19. That looks way better. And then you go for it on 4th down when the other teams conceded the game. Like, this is the vibes I get from this, where it's like, I think if you're Ben Johnson, you got a first place schedule. It's going to be much harder. The Packers, who were really good, they were considered one of the best teams in the league until Micah Parsons went down. The Lions are going to be better. The Vikings are going to be better. And like I said, your schedule is going to be more difficult. I just think this is a weird thing for a coach to say going into year 2, where nobody really felt like the Bears offense was like, oh man, next year they might have the best offense in the league. I don't know. I don't like the I don't like the coach kind of like, it's one thing to be like, hey, we want to be the best offense in the league. It's another thing to be like, okay, this is how many points we need per game to break the record, because it's really, to me, not what it's even about. It's like a byproduct of doing everything right. And to me, it's like, I don't think Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, I don't think any of these guys were ever going into the game saying, hey man, this is what we got to do to break that record. And plus, they have an extra game to do it now. And that's why I respect Saquon Barkley so much, because he was on pace to break the rushing record. And then he didn't even play week 18 because he was like, what does it matter? We have an extra game now. And what's more important is that I'm healthy for the postseason. You know, who gives a crap about going off trying to get personal? You know what I want? I want a ring. I don't care about, breaking, a record and potentially hurting myself. And you know what? Saquon Barkley benched himself, forfeited the records, and went on to be dominant in the postseason and won a Super Bowl. So I just think a lot of these things happen when you're not trying to get them. It's like kind of like picking up a girl. It's like, the less desperate you are, sometimes the better luck you have. And to me, this comes across as like kind of desperate offensive desperate behavior, and it's like, oh God, what are these games going to look like? You know what I mean? It's just not important at the end of the day to me, and probably to, I would even say maybe Caleb Williams. I mean, I can't remember the last time I heard a coach even talk about points and the amount they want to get per game. One of the best seasons ever by quarterback, the 2013. Dude, I remember it was week 5 and we were playing Dallas and we won 51-48 or something like that. And it was like the Denver Broncos are averaging like 45 points per game. I think they scored like over 500 points through, what was it? They broke the record most points. There's a laundry list of records they broke. I mean, Manning threw 7 touchdown passes in the season opener against the Ravens. I mean, that offense was ridiculous. But we never heard about. That wasn't even something that just happened organically, you know? And we weren't ever running the score up. We didn't have a good defense that year. So we just found ourselves in shootouts. You know, honestly, I would say, like, if you find yourself breaking this record, you probably don't have a Super Bowl caliber team. Honestly, that's like a big reason I don't like it, because your whole point of being a coach should be to win the Super Bowl. Now, if you're breaking this record, you probably don't have a good defense, because if you have a good defense, then you're going to be up by 13 as soon as you score 25, 27, and then you're going to run the ball, control the time of possession, you know, control pitch count, control snap count. But if you're like the Bengals from 2 years ago and you need 45 points to win, you might actually break this record, right? You really want to be like the 2013 Broncos? Well, let me remind you what happened to that 2013 Broncos. We made it all the way to the Super Bowl because of that offense. And when we got there, we found out what the Legion of Boom is. And we lost 43-8 to the Seahawks. It turns out scoring a bunch of points and having no defense is not what wins Super Bowls. And if you're scoring that many points, it's only because you have a bad defense. On the contrary, our worst offense in the Peyton Manning era was in 2015 when we had the no-fly zone, the best defense in the NFL. And guess what? The worst offense in the Manning era, the worst offense Manning ever had in the NFL. He goes on top, wins a Super Bowl. If I had to make my pick, give me the best defense in the league, not the best offense. Nobody should be scoring almost 40 points a game unless you're giving up a ridiculous amount of points and you're in a shootout every single week. That's all I got today. Got to be at work at 10:30. That's in 25 minutes, 15-minute drive, 10 minutes to get ready. But starting now, I'm going to be live all the time. Football's back. I got a lot to share, man. Every single day I'm filing things away, stuff to talk about, like the Justin Herbert Stafford comparison. I think that's an important thing to look at. And I think also we're a little too harsh on guys like Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love's only been at this 3 years. I'm hearing people say, like, you know, he's got a ceiling, but if he doesn't do it this year, like, what are we even doing? It's like, what are you talking about? There's never been this level of quarterback competition in the NFL, in my opinion, ever. Right? Every quarterback is good. Besides the Browns, Atlanta, I even think Miami's going to be good with Malik Willis. Like, the Titans have Cam Ward. I think he's good. I mean, but you go down the list. I mean, I'm not going to do it right now, but it's never been like this. And I remember when we started this podcast, I said, what's going to happen 3 to 4 years from now? Like, where is this going? Everybody's going to have a good quarterback. Like, how is this going to work? And I remember thinking, we're going to end up exactly where we are right now. And what does that mean? I mean, to me, that means like, don't expect, oh, I have a quarterback that's really good at football, that's elite. Well, that should come with a ring. This is not, 2005, where if you were Tom Brady, Drew Brees, or Peyton Manning, you had or Aaron Rodgers, it's like, those are the guys. Everyone is the guy. I mean, it's really like that. You got 15 quarterbacks that you could argue are top 5, right? That's why Jalen Hurts finds himself ranked at 15, and then somebody else puts him at 5. I mean, it's insane what the league looks like right now. But I should be hopping on. I'm going to try to hop on daily, but it'll definitely be, bi-daily, daily. So just stay tuned. Keep your notifications on. Jinja, always a pleasure having you in here. Thanks for the dialogue and going back and forth and listening to me rant about Ben Johnson focusing on the wrong things and Bo Nix being underrated. I know that I might have rang that bell too many times, but I appreciate it. I will see you guys on the next stream. And as always, long live Bill Harton. Love you, brother.